me now. When every ship is going down, I don't feel nothing when I hear you say it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
Hey guys, it's BatChat. I'm here to correct a few mistakes I made in the video the other day about the biased matchmaking. I mentioned in the other video that the matchmaking system was completely skewed for odd tiers. After doing some testing today within tiers 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9, I can tell you now that the it's not completely screwed, but there is a certain bias to the higher tiers being the odd tiers. Now, it's not completely biased in the lower tiers. It's just the fact that it is matching odd tiers up at a 80% rate where they are being higher tier, and the even tiers are getting about a 40% rate of being the higher tier in the match. So it's not completely broken, but at the same time, the algorithm is screwed at the moment. My testing was all done with supremacy turned off, so that might be a factor in this problem, where supremacy games might be getting a lot more higher tier, even tier matchmaking. Now, I'm going to do some testing on this tomorrow to see if that is the case, but currently as it stands, when you have supremacy off, like I do now, and you're doing odd tier matchmaking in 7 and 9, you are going to get top tier almost 80% of the time. It doesn't seem to be the same for tiers 3 and 5. Those you do tend to get, you do actually tend to get bottom tier more often than you would in say 7 or 9. I played some. To test it out, I played some T82 and some the Stug 3G, and out of the games I played, I got like about a 40-60 split, maybe a 45-55 split on those tiers there. The split's much more biased when it's higher tier like this. I ran these 3 games straight in a row, all these tier 7 games straight in a row. I got top tier every single one of them. Same thing for my tier 9s today. For the most part, I got top tier all of my tier 9 games. Now, looking at it, that's a big problem for players who are at a lower skill level, because if they're sitting there trying to grind their tanks like I know I used to be when I was grinding my Tiger 2, I can tell you right now, if I got this kind of matchmaking, it would not make me want to play the game. And that's what we need. We need people like I used to be, like filler players, to be interested in this game. And you can't be interested in something that's going to constantly give you difficult matchmaking. Players are playing this game for the most part in order to enjoy themselves and to enjoy the historic realism, and if you're sitting there being just absolutely pummeled game after game, I can tell you right now, I wouldn't want to turn my phone off or my iPad. I wouldn't want to kind of play against that matchmaking, and that's a sentiment that at least I know most people can understand. Now, it's great for people who just want to sit there and pad their stats, but that's going to come at a cost. You're going to be, at some point, getting higher match queue times because there's not enough filler players, because they've all quit. Now, this is the second game. I'm still playing Type 62. I can tell you right now that this kind of matchmaking is just easy. It really is. I'm gonna go ahead and spoil it. I do get an Ace Mastery badge this game. I wasn't trying to record for that. I was just trying to see if I could record more matchmaking and see if I could produce more evidence of the bias in the tiers. I did some testing this morning. In fact, it was I want to say early on this morning, and I played a bunch of tier 6 in my AMX12T on my reroll account, and I can tell you right now, I did see tier 5, so that it's true that it's not completely biased, but I can tell you I've had people come to me telling me about this skew in the matchmaking, this error in the algorithm system that's going on now. There was the no scoping for days from Hated. He was the original one who told me about it. And I think we both kind of thought that this was a completely biased thing, but as it turns out, it's not. I've got players on both sides of the aisle, people telling me that, they're getting down tiered in their tier 7s and whatnot, and people telling me, they're seeing tier 9s and their tier 10s, and so clearly it's not a fully broken algorithm, but it is skewed towards those odd tiers right now. I'm not sure what the cause of it is, and I'm sure after a while it'll become more apparent. But this gives me a chance to talk about some of the problems that are going on within the game that have been going on for a while now, and not just these matchmaking problems. For instance, the heavy and TD spam that goes on in pretty much all of the mid to high tiers nowadays. It's very rare to queue up in a game in tier 6 through 10 and not be spammed to death by those kind of tanks. Just this heavily biased matchmaking system where you've got five fucking TDs on a team versus a team with like a shit ton of light tanks, or you've got, like, let's say you're playing your AMX 1375 or something like that, and you come up against a team that has like 6 IS3s, or no, not 6, like 4 IS3s, like an IS5, a Yag Panther. Like, what are you gonna fucking do against that matchmaking? Yeah, you can spot, but you're relying on your team to do most of the damage, and as we well know in this game, that relying on your team for anything is just asking for yourself to get a loss. Like, for instance, right now, I could be relying on that SU-100Y to fucking do anything, but he's not. Or I could be relying on my team to have helped me with spotting damage at the beginning, or I could rely on that KV-2 to be useful, but that's just not the case, and that's not how the game works. So we're seeing this change in dynamic from this game that used to be very diverse in the way you could approach the game and the diverse matchmaking system, but instead, now what we've got is consistent, campy games and long, drawn-out corridor engagements with these fucking TDs and these heavy tanks, and then you try to play a medium, and you're either focused out or just screwed over because you can't pin shit because they fucking nerfed Pramo. It is completely destroying this game. It is making people become disinterested because the game's whole premise is the Blitz. This fast, dynamic gameplay, different tanks, fucking different situations. Instead, you've got this campy bullshit that happens in almost every game nowadays, and it's only gonna get worse as time goes on, where they're introducing all these new premium heavy tanks, and they're buffing tier 7 heavy tanks, and they're just like, fuck the lights completely. They're like, let's nerf the RU line, because it totally needed that. And then they're like, let's nerf the Russian light tank line. Let's nerf the fucking British mediums. Like, why would you fucking nerf the British mediums? Why? They already had some of the lowest DPM in class, and then they're like, you know what? Fuck you and your Hess shells. Let's make the Death Star 10 times stronger. Let's make the 183 like 5 times more viable. And fuck the FV4202, despite the fucking poor statistics on that tank. It baffles my mind. They are treating people who would like to play this game differently. Who would instead of just non-stop heavy tank spam, they would like to see some fucking variety in the game for once. And yet they're shut down by this shit. It doesn't make any real sense to me, and I'm sure to the players who have been here for a long time, it's frustrating to see tanks that used to be so competitive, like the 140 and the T62A, be set to these roles where they can't fucking fight easily anymore. By the way, pretty decent mastery game there. I wouldn't say it's my best or anything, but did want to highlight the fact that if I had counted on my team for anything in that game, I would have been pretty screwed. So, in order to kind of test the different vehicles, I went into an E25, and of course, top tier matchmaking, 3rd game in a row. What do you say? I haven't gotten less than 5 kills a game yet, and Surprise, surprise, this match is not going to change that. You see this matchmaking and you're thinking, how is this fair for any of those tier 6s? If you're trying to grind that shit, it's not going to matter. You're just going to be put into these bottom tier games, and you're just going to have to deal with it. If your top tiers are bad, then your top tiers are bad. Like, there's nothing you can do about that in game. So why is it so often that you're put into bottom tier? Like, what are you supposed to do about heavy tanks that fucking camp hills and TD sniper spots, or weak ass TDs like Nashorns or shit, for better reference, like a Stura Mill at tier 7? What are you supposed to do if he's your top tier and he just gets rushed by 2 fucking Draculas and dies, and you're sitting there in a tier 6 and you're just like, well, fuck, there goes one of our top tiers. It's hard for good players to deal with. It's definitely more challenging for new players to deal with. And that's what's going to drive people away from this game. And I would hate to see that myself. Played this game for a few years at this point, and this has been my favorite game for a long time, ever since it came out on PC. But you can see what happens on PC. They bring out all these fucking OP premiums, and then they fuck their own matchmaking up on PC, where you got 357, where the top 3 just get this fucking god tier matchmaking. And now you got this shit on Blitz, where the matchmaking's screwed here too. And it just creates this dependency on players that there shouldn't be. I shouldn't have to be depending on, being carried by my top tiers consistently, game after game. If that was the case if I had suckered out in this game and fucking drowned or something, what would these tier 6s have done? They're just getting shit all over in the heavy lane over there. And, I can't very much count on any of my other teammates. I'm going to have to carry this game. It's not fair to these tier 6s or these other players that are trying to grind tank lines. And I'm sick of seeing this same kind of gameplay, lack of variety, overall trashy game, because it's not appealing and it's not enjoyable to play. And I'm sick of seeing them nerf game aspects that are crucial and helpful to players and make the game diverse and enjoyable. I don't care if I'm alone on that. That's something that I've wanted to see for a long time, and I'm hoping that they will address this problem with the matchmaking and fix it soon, so that people will enjoy the game and at least not have another thing to at least fuss over. That's my thoughts. And again, 5 kills, top tier carry, tier 7, 3 games in a row. Unfortunate. Thank you guys for watching today. This is BatChat, and I'm out of here.